Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Monday, May 12th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm Teddy Panos, coming to you here from the WellPoint Studios in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell, and joined today by a member of the Lowell School Committee. They've been front and center in the city news over the last week or so, and probably will continue to be until the school and city budget is resolved. We're joined by Fred Bahou, district. What district are you by? Is it District 1?
District 1 and 8.
District 1 and 8.
The Highlands and Pawtucket.
Yeah, but so I wondered how they did that on the school committee side, because you have 1 and 8, as you said. Do they just average it and make your district, 4.5? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure it's based on the population and how we are in proximity to other parts of the city.
Well, thank you for coming on in. There's a lot going on, a city council meeting and a school committee meeting last week, very heavily focused on the budget, and a lot of back and forth on both sides, a lot of charges and counter charges, and I want to get into it from a school committee perspective with you, so thank you for coming on in. We'll get right to it with Freddie, but first let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. You can find them online at realestaterayBooten.com. Remember that address if you're looking to buy or sell a home, business, or commercial property, or if you want one of those properties appraised, Ray Booten is your man, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thanks to Ray, thanks to WellPoint. We've got a few other sponsors. I'll thank them in a minute, but I want to get right down to it. First, Fred, your general thoughts on the budget situation, and I say that as much because during the beginning of your discussion on the school committee floor Thursday, your microphone wasn't on. So I had to get my old ear real tight, and I think I heard what you said, but I want to give you a chance to tell our audience what do you think of this whole thing? The city putting in $4 million less than the schools wanted, expected, etc., and where we go from here.
Sure. At the end of the day, the city, and the schools have got to work together. And essentially, that's what we do. We've been working together for a while with all of the projects that the city's been doing, as far as adding new roofs to school, adding new heating systems at HVAC, as well as doing new windows. So the city's been a great partner. City's been, enhancing the buildings that have needed to be enhanced for a long time, and they're finally getting to it. They're even, we bought the St. Jean d'Arc building not long ago for $2.4 million, and they're ready to step to the plate so that we can open that building. So the city, and never mind the Lowell High School building project, which, is not really part of our budget, but it is definitely going to cost much more than we had anticipated. So the city's been a great partner. But ultimately, our superintendent developed a budget. We received another $18 million from the state in SOA, Student Opportunity Act money. And we sort of, balanced the budget. Unfortunately, the Monday before the school committee got the budget on Friday, the city came in and said, hey, we cannot be giving you 21% of the state recommended amount, as we always do. We're going to, unfortunately, and you've been a great partner, we're going to go ahead and give you 14% of that, which essentially was a reduction to our budget by $4 million. And, when you reduce the school's budget by $4 million, people panic. Because ultimately, you have to start making cuts. And the superintendent had already started making cuts in administration. There were a lot of administrative cuts being made. But in the 11th hour, because that's when we found out, we had to start cutting teaching positions. So the superintendent is looking at cutting as many as 28 teaching positions, 17 of them being paraprofessionals, which, let's be real, are probably the hardest working, or some of the hardest working people in our schools.
And the lowest paid.
And unfortunately, yes, paid, at very low numbers.
Okay. So the numbers I always find fascinating. As a sports guy, numbers and stats are interesting to me. So city's
How
going to
many
give you
three-pointers are the Celtics going to attempt tonight?
72 tonight. They won, so they're feeling
They're
emboldened.
going to throw some more three-pointers up on it.
So the city, instead of giving the 14 million, is giving 10 million.
That's correct.
Now the city says, well, look, we're putting in other money in transportation, buildings, as you pointed out, etc. So it's not like we're spending less on the school. We're spending more on the schools, but we're not giving it in cash. State, from what I understand, state budget requirements, DESI requirements are fuzzy into how much, whether you need to give cash, whether you need to give it in others, however you decide to spend it. But you're correct. It seems that other communities spend about 20%. Other communities kind of similar to Lowell, I guess. 20% or so is kind of the norm.
That seems to be, yes.
Which the schools had been getting.
The rule of thumb.
Right. But you're getting 4 million less from the city.
That's correct.
You're getting 18 million more from the state in Chapter 70 funding.
Yes.
Okay, first thing, I'm told that the House budget includes an extra $2 million.
But we don't know that.
Is that 18 plus 2, so you'll get 20 million, or?
It could be.
It could,
But
okay.
Again, we don't know.
All right.
The Senate budget is something altogether different. Is it going to pass? Is the governor going to pass it? Is it going to pass the branches? So we don't know if that money's available.
All right. Could it be safe to assume that the manager, who has some friends up there on Beacon Hill still, well, maybe he's lost them all by this point because he keeps asking for money, but is it safe to know he knows that money's coming? Would Senator Kennedy, would the delegation know if that money is safe? Because everybody that I hear talking kind of says, well, they're getting $2 million extra on top of it. So now we're going to a $2 million gap from what you expected.
Unfortunately, this is not what it's all about. What it's all about is the city, has to give us, is recommended to give us roughly 21%, as they have in the past 5 years, 33% years prior to that, 21% of that $69 million. And now they're offering 14%. With that being the case, they say that, the maintenance of effort, which is, them plowing, them doing work to our buildings, doing some HVAC work, some electrical work, getting things done, all of a sudden that number's inflated. And they're saying, okay, we don't have, we can go ahead and give you less because we are meeting your net school spending. But that maintenance of effort is realistically, nobody really knows how they get to that 79% charge if over the 21, right? So, when we were expecting essentially $15 million, the city is saying that they're spending $55 million on our buildings annually. And that's really where the crux of the matter is. It's not whether the Senate is going to give us more money. We're not looking at it like that.
Okay.
We're looking at the city basically, truthfully, lowering the threshold. And if they lower the threshold, they did it from 33%, 5 years ago to 21%, and then from 21% to 14%, and we have to start making cuts in the classroom in the last minute, it's not fair.
So I understand where the school committee's coming. You're Fred Bahou, school committee member. Your job is to fight and advocate for as much money as you can get for the schools from everywhere. I get it. Every single person on that school committee. The mayor might have conflicting drama because he's responsible to the council in the city. But I want to approach this from how a taxpayer looks at it, because I'm a cynic. I look at budgets, municipal. I look at municipal and school budgets as a giant shell game. They just start, and I think we're at the point of the shell game where they start moving the ball so quickly that the average citizen, the taxpayer, has lost sight of where the ball is. But so this is why I want to look at the numbers. So 18 million more from the state, 4 million less from the city. The school department has $14 million more to play with this year than they did last year. School budget is 270 million.
This year, proposed school budget is 271. That's correct.
So if everything with a drastic $4 million cut from the city, you still have 14 million extra dollars, which is 5% of your school budget, more than 5%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. However,
how can your costs be outpacing that?
Well, we did just negotiate a contract, because don't forget, in the news about 7 months ago was picketing teachers in Beverly, Massachusetts, and picketing teachers in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And I believe they were picketing teachers in Marblehead, Massachusetts. So, you know, we were negotiating a contract, not scared of picketing teachers, but still, you know, with the knowledge that you want to go ahead and pay the teachers their due, as well as the paraprofessionals, as well as, you know, the people in the classroom. They're vital to us, and the custodial staff. So ultimately, we negotiated a contract. And the contract was to, you know, give the teachers 4% year one, 4% year two, and 3% year three.
While other unions basically got 333 in the city, right?
I think the city got 444.
Did they?
The city got 444.
Okay. I stand corrected if that's
yes, and you can check on that, but that's as far as I know and what I've heard, that the city got 444. So we were mimicking essentially what the city did when it came to contract negotiations. Okay. And of course, contract negotiations can be pretty difficult.
They always are.
And they are, you know, give and take. And ultimately, you know, we just wanted to go ahead and compensate our teachers fairly.
Which, again, understandable. If you have the money, you've got the money. You give it to in the classroom, as you said, but that's a lot of layers. That's teachers, paraprofessionals.
Teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, any support staffs within the building.
Okay. How many new jobs? Were there 300 new jobs created in the last handful of years?
Again, I can't answer that. I didn't look at the budget book from 2020. I don't have it. 2021, 2022. Was there? I don't know. I don't know. But again, if you do some fuzzy math or any math, and you start, you know, adding 300 positions at $40,000 a year with insurance, you can get to $15 million pretty quickly.
Or if you add,
did Joel Boyd have that much money?
Well, if you add paraprofessionals at 40,000, it take 3 of them to pay off what one of the chiefs that was hired along the way.
Yes.
So this is where you get into the admin versus the classroom discussion. And nationwide, this is not a Lowell problem. Nationwide, like an 87% increase since 2000 in the number of admins, K through 12, while the number of teachers was barely a 9% increase. And according to Superintendent Skinner at the meeting, he said in Lowell, that's not the case. It's significantly lower percentage increase, but it's still an increase, right?
Sure.
How many students are now, the change of students discussion I'm hearing a lot of?
As far as the student count goes, when we spoke to the superintendent at the school committee meeting on Wednesday, we have gone up in the past 2 years from 13,900 students to 15,100 students. So we've increased the student body by 1,200.
In the last,
and I'm not sure if it's 2 years or 3 years. I'm not sure if it's 2 years or 3 years. But he did, you know, I asked him, and he says, yeah, we had 13,900 students, you know, not long ago. And what I mean by not long ago, we're talking within a pretty quick amount of time, 2 or 3 years. And then we're at 15,000 as of October, 15,100 or so as of October 1 of this year.
And this is where the stats get kind of fuzzy, because if you look at a baseball player's batting average over the last 2 weeks, it may be great, but then if you look at the entire season, it may be terrible. Go back to before COVID, and I'm told the numbers are where they were. We've gotten back to where the numbers were prior to COVID. In those, you know, whatever that starting point that the superintendent cited, going from 13,900 to 15,000, doesn't take into account that there was a drop to get to that 13,900. Likely caused by some of the COVID situations and other things.
Right. And administrative positions got hired.
And administrative, correct. Now, you
from the previous administration.
You're right. You were not on that school committee.
I did not hire that person. I did not think he was the best person for the job. I don't think that he had Lowell at the best, at his best interest of his mind.
But if I'm a taxpayer, I'm like, wait a minute. Did you want more positions because there's more students, but you didn't cut any positions when there were less students. In fact, you started adding on to the positions when you were losing students. And that's the frustration from the tax. I think there's and by the way, this also goes to the city side. I think taxpayers just don't trust the government to be as lean and efficient as it should be or could be. And then ultimately when it comes time to make cuts, what do? They go right to the paras, right? Because that's where it hurts. It hurts in the classroom. It hurts.
You know, you can
that's
say
the
that.
message you're sending out.
Well, okay. Well, I'm looking at administrative cuts that were proposed by the superintendent on this budget, which is $3.6 million in cuts.
Okay.
For administrative. Administrative says Director of Human Resources, District Webmaster, Equity, Executive Secretary, 6 District Support Specialists, Chief of Equity, and then some stipends and so on and so forth. So that administrative cost came down to $3.6 million.
Is that positions eliminated or positions being reassigned?
As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, they're being eliminated. You know, do we need some type of, DEI person in our school resource office? Sure, we do, because that needs to be recognized. But is it going to come in the tune of a whole office that's costing the school district up to $2 million? I'm sorry, up to $1 million a year to operate? No. So it's really being limited.
Okay. That was one of my follow-up questions there is, in terms of the DEI, I think we're seeing this battle start to play out on the city side as well. You've just said it, you need to have some level of it,
right. There's
perhaps
some
not a whole
support,
department.
right?
Is the name of that department going to change? To not, there's talk that if you have DEI, you're jeopardizing
right.
any federal grants that might be coming in. So if you call it something else,
Student Support Services office, and that's what it will be.
Okay.
It's a Student Support Service.
All right. And to your knowledge, positions are being eliminated. $3.6 million is being eliminated.
That's
it's
correct.
Not just being reshuffled.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, but there's other added costs that, we haven't discussed yet, because you said something about $14 million. Is that enough? It seems like it's 5%. And I just let you know that we increased pays by 4%.
Correct.
And so on and so forth.
So you still have about a 1% to play with. But if you also get the additional $2 million from the next state budget,
$2 million,
now you get an extra percent to play with.
We're lowering the threshold from 33% to 14%, and we're calling it maintenance of effort.
Understood.
So let's be real careful of that.
Understood. But to the tax levy, it's a total amount of cash. Whether you want to call it cash or maintenance of effort or whatever, the taxpayers of Lowell will fund, and the taxpayers of the state will fund this amount, a number of dollars, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Some money, though, we can't get around, right?
Correct.
Like special education transportation. You want to know how much it's gone up?
Yes.
Yeah. Take a guess.
I would guess a tremendous amount based on some political decisions made over the last 18 months. I don't know that answer, but
$2.8 million.
$2.8 million.
$2.8 million.
But
out of district tuition.
But I'm told that's being reimbursed. Isn't the governor sending the state?
No. Well, this is out of our budget. The governor's not saying here's $2.7 million, Lowell and Lawrence and Waltham and Lynn. They're not saying that. They're giving you SOA money, and they're just calling it SOA money, Student Opportunity Act. That's all they're calling it. So no, they're not giving us the transportation.
They'll make the argument that that's the 18 million more we're giving you. There it is. There's the money.
That's correct.
That's what they'll say, right?
Sure. And the sped and then the out of district tuition. Sometimes we can't service the kids. It would be great if we had the St. Jean D'Arc building open, because now we might be able to service more special education students. But that's gone up. So we're paying out of district tuition of $2.2 million. That's an awful lot of money. That's an increase of what it was last year. Right, and then our health insurance. So everybody knows the health insurance, right? And that's gone up $1.6 million. So there's some baked-in costs.
I thought Mass Health and Obamacare was gonna save all this.
Right. Keep our costs down.
Can we get everybody on WellPoint?
No, we need to advertise right here.
Get out of Tufts. Get out of whoever else is doing health care, and get everybody into WellPoint. You'll save a significant amount of money.
That was the idea years ago. But do we need to raise our health insurance cost?
Of course you do.
Our matching
amount.
Is that the big deal? So, that's something to consider. Our substitute teachers, going up $400,000 because.
But you couldn't get substitute. There was a time where you couldn't get substitute, and you had to start being competitive.
That's correct.
With other districts. All of it understood.
And maintenance of effort. And I'm going to keep going back to maintenance of effort. Don't forget, the administrative building right across the street here is costing us over $500,000 annually. The 80-day school, which is a special education school, is costing us close to $400,000 annually. We're paying $900,000. Now, don't forget, if these are the city buildings, maybe the city should be reimbursing us for this. How about this? Last year, we gave back in city cash to the city $1.1 million. We're great stewards. We just added modular classrooms to the STEM out of the ESSER money, out of the school budgeted money. And, $5.4 million. So ultimately, we're trying to be a good partner. And I think we are a good partner. And we're just asking the city to be a good partner as well.
Okay. Some more numbers to talk about, and you kind of brought them up in your beginning discussion. I want to get to them with school committee member Fred Bahou. First, let me thank all of our Daily Pulse sponsors. We've already told you about Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both of those states, over 3 decades of experience. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell, Southern New Hampshire since 1925. Great family, great company. Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to insure its most valuable assets since 1982. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, they're bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. Pirates have one more game on the road this week, and then they're back home Thursday night. May 29th. We hope to see you folks at the Songa Center. Glad to see Fred Bahou, Lowell School Committeeman, here in the studios for our Daily Pulse today. So you mentioned, the city has purchased the old former Jeanne d'Arc private school.
$2.4 million.
The school district. Yes. That money came out of the school district.
That's correct.
Okay. Was that ESSER money?
That was
ESSER money.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned the high school project.
Yeah. Major problem. We don't need to, we knew, but, we hoped. And unfortunately, the issue that started way back then is even a bigger issue now.
So we don't know the number yet. We'll probably 3 weeks from knowing that number. 5 million, 10 million?
I've
heard up to 20 million.
Yes,
I've heard of 20 million.
Surprised.
So somebody's going to have to pick up that cost, and that is going to be the Lowell taxpayer.
That is correct.
So again, it put aside whether it comes from the school budget, the city budget, whatever, it comes from Lowell taxpayers. And this one is all Lowell taxpayers.
My taxes have gone up exponentially
Correct.
in the city of Lowell for the past 3 years. My taxes have gone up to 20% plus.
So should the school committee should the school committee have expected to take some kind of a hit because of that? In particular, the school committee members who sued the city back in 2017 to help ensure that this would happen.
It just comes back to being the school's buildings. I'm sorry, the city's buildings. That's what it comes down to. Every school that's throughout the city of Lowell is the city's building, and we essentially maintain the building from the inside like a condominium, and the city maintains the building, from the outside. So that's what it is. So I can't see that it would have to come out of the school budget unless the city wants to say, hey, this is your building. At Greater Lowell, it's our building, and we need to go ahead and take care of it. And that's what we do.
All right. Now, there's a lot of talk about facilities departments and marrying the two. I believe the city council is kind of beginning the process. But at the very least, there's a facilities department that will be created specifically for the Lowell High School.
As there should be.
Project, as there should be. Do we know if that facilities department specific to the high school will currently come out of the school facilities money or the city's facilities
As far as
money?
I know, it's going to come out of the city's facilities.
City facility money. Okay.
They're going to maintain the city's building.
And then when you...
I don't think they're going to be mopping floors.
No,
they're going to be
right.
satisfying heating, ventilation. They're going to be satisfying the crux of the building, roofing, anything that's part of the building.
There's some level of cost savings there, though, to the schools, right? By having a...
Well,
or no?
I don't know, because the custodial action is still the custodial action. Does that mean we can cut back on custodian people? I don't think so. It's like essentially a plant director.
But the custodians are being tasked with doing maintenance stuff as well, correct?
Unfortunately, because things have fallen apart. And let's remember the old Lowell High School, you had floods in the basement all the time. You had no heat happening regularly. There were window issues, drafts, mold issues. There were major problems.
Sure.
And it was a something that you had to go ahead and keep maintaining, and the city did not have enough help to go ahead and maintain it. So yes, our custodial staff did what they could.
I don't know the answer to this, but as you create that facilities department, I assume that some money that the schools are currently spending goes away from them as well, correct?
We would guess that.
You'll realize a savings at some point.
We're hoping, yes.
Has anybody asked, and I haven't, but I have to make sure I do. Has anyone asked the city administration, the manager and whatnot, if that, what exactly is going into that calculation of the $4 million cut, and why is, why that number? There's got to be a reason for that number as I see it.
Right. It's essentially a plant director. Right, and how many square footage are in that high school?
Oh,
I figured like 350,000.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge.
Correct.
So we do need a plant director, which is essentially what Eric is over at Greater Lowell. And if you've walked into Greater Lowell in the past 4 years, you've seen an outstanding facility.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's arguing.
We need that.
You need a facilities department, because
whether it's the city paying for it or us paying for it. Well, listen, we're paying $500,000 in rent. Let me say it again: $500,000 in rent at the administrative building, $400,000 in rent at the 80-day school. When we leave the 80-day school, we won't be paying rent anymore. Will we assume savings there? Of course we will. Will we have more students that can be supported there? Yes, we will. Will we have to pay $2.1 million in out-of-district costs? No, it'll probably be less.
Is there a location that the admin could be moved in to save that $500,000?
Well, the word on the street is they're trying to buy a building so that they can house the administration.
We're
hoping.
What is it, that 40 Market Street? Is there? I know that DP, the Department of Planning and Development, is supposedly moving in there, but I'm told there's room to move other things in there. Is that?
Let's hope.
Is that one of the calculations?
It's hope.
Okay.
Is what it is.
So
we don't know.
All right. So there could be a potential. All right. Yeah. So it's not all bleak for the taxpayers.
There's nothing bleak.
But okay.
Right. We're just trying to maintain. Listen. If you graduate kids, our graduation rate is going up. Our attendance rate is going up. Our test scores are going up. If you're graduating children, that's the whole goal here. And the last thing we want to do is lose students in the classroom. That's the last thing we want to do. And for the city to say, we're cutting your budget of what we gave you last year by over 30%, then it's pretty difficult for us to swallow, especially when you do it in the 11th hour, when essentially the budget's all made up, and then they come in and they say that.
Correct. But again, you're still getting an extra $14 million in the budget. It's not, and I know,
I just told you the cost.
You're right.
2.8 for this, 2.1 for this, 1.6 for this.
So is it a money problem or an expense problem? And how do we attack the expense side of it? If from the taxpayer side of it, because either the city, and I'm going to be curious to see how this battle plays out, because the city will either have to take money from the city budget and add $1 million or something here and there, lump it in with the state money and get the schools to a place where they don't have to make any cuts, or they're going to have to raise that 2.5% proposed tax on the city.
Sure, they're going to raise it. Why not give us the 2.5% on top of the $14 million we got last year? We'll be happy with that. That'll give us, for $14,500,000.
But doesn't the city have the same increase in cost you have? The city has, right? The DPW workers, the police, the fire, and everybody else gets.
So we can't raise taxes. We don't want to raise taxes.
But would you propose the city raise taxes if they have to?
It seems like the city manager is proposing that he's going to take advantage of Proposition 2.5 and ask for a 2.5.
He's going to go to 2.5, right? Should he go to 3? Should he go to 3.5 to make up that?
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
I don't think that's necessary.
Where would the money come from?
This is a proposed budget, right? So where would the money come from? I'm sure the city manager and Connor Baldwin, his CFO, could look at their budget and I'm sure be able to assist us at the school as they always have, and find that money for us so that we can be great partners, and we enjoy being the city's partners.
So, and I'm going to give you my last conspiracy theory as a tax player in my shell game. I have a hunch that miraculously all of this will be solved without any cuts. That's my prediction. How confident are you that my prediction comes true, and it will only be a 2.5% tax increase to the city of Lowell?
I'm the freshman school committee member, so I don't know if your prediction is right. When I was behind the counter at the Windsor shop, I could say it's all going to play out and it'll be perfectly fine. But now that I'm elected and I'm on the school committee, I can only hope that the CFO, our city manager, can look at these cuts and say, hey, Let's give them back so we don't lose teachers in the classroom. Let's keep the ball moving forward. Let's keep Lowell schools moving forward to make Lowell that destination city that we all want it to be.
All right. Worst case scenario, you have to make cuts. And
Yeah.
I heard, as you've said, that classroom, every single one of you, the classroom is the last place it should come from. And,
100%.
Dave Conway said it. Everybody said it.
Is Dave on the show?
Not on here this show. At the meeting Thursday night.
Yeah,
We're going to get Dave on here as
the
well.
show.
Well, I'm getting rid of all the city councils. Now I can move the school committee.
Okay, I
folks
love
in
it.
here. But is there a place where the superintendent should look? You specifically said there's 40 paraprofessional positions being cut. I can't imagine anybody.
17 paraprofessionals.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I apologize. They make 40,000. They make
That's
40,000.
okay. That's correct.
So 17 should the superintendent look elsewhere? If he's forced to, should he look elsewhere, and where should he look?
Without a doubt, the superintendent should always be looking. He should always be looking at administrative costs, because administrative costs, let's be real, administration is bloated. In municipalities across Massachusetts.
You asked me before I hit record, why did I call you in? Because I figured you're the one most likely to say it.
Well, I was a small businessman, right?
The administration is bloated.
All administration is bloated. Across the state. Look at the state police.
Yes.
Bloated. Look at the governor's office. Bloated. Look at the amount of state reps we have. How many state reps do we have in the state of Massachusetts? 151? I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah, they're at 160 something.
Wow.
40 senators.
Let's give ourselves a pay raise. Let's give
Thank you for saying
bloated government, brother. All right.
31 minutes and into the podcast, you said administration is bloated. So
I said that's a place to look and make some cuts. Yes.
So why are we scaring I've talked to paraprofessionals, by the way, over the weekend. They're wondering if they're going to have a job next year.
Of course.
Why are we even beginning this conversation with paraprofessionals?
This whole
when
thing,
nobody wants to. That's the one area nobody wants to cut,
this
right?
whole thing started in the midnight hour. If the superintendent didn't find out on Monday afternoon, when he's supposed to have a budget to his school committee by Friday, and his budget is all made, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, I've already cut $3.6 million, off administrative costs. Where else am I going to cut? Please help us, city manager. So that's basically what we're looking for. And again, maintenance of effort. It's it's sort of a smoke screen. We don't know exactly how much is being spent on Lowell school buildings. They claim it to be 55 to $60 million, because if the state is saying you should give Lowell schools $69 million and the city is offering us $10 million, then they're saying that they're spending $59 million on our buildings this upcoming school year. Is that really happening?
By the time the high school project's done, they might be.
Yeah, and then we're going to raise taxes.
All right. To be seen. Next meeting is in
Wednesday. We're going over the budget.
Special budget meeting.
Special budget
2 nights from tonight. Okay.
That's correct.
The council will not have begun their public session discussion. So you're not.
The budget proposal will be up from the city manager tomorrow to his city council, as far as I know.
Okay. But they still have to have public hearing. Don't they have to have
the public hearings. Yeah, they're not voting on it.
So if there's right. So
our public hearings start Wednesday.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of paraprofessionals there saying, this is what I do, as there should be.
I'm sure the right next door to the administrative building is where the UTL headquarters are. I'm sure there'll be some folks from there speaking as well.
Sure.
443?
443.
443, is that what they got for their increase? I got to check and see
443, that is correct.
I have to check and see what I was under the impression the city people got 333. But
great question.
Those 1%.
It makes a big
add up.
difference.
It sure does.
Well, 1% of $200 million in salaries. 1% is what? $2 million. So 1% makes a big difference.
Sure does.
And then let's be real. Steps and columns, they make a big difference as well. Of
course.
And a lot of people don't know about steps and columns, but they exist. People that watch this show know about steps and columns.
Yes, they do. As part of your discussion, you talked about this. This is such a bad time to be doing cuts because we're trying to increase student engagement, keep our students, increase educational opportunities. And you mentioned your campaign theme, one of the main themes of your campaign, vocational schools, some type of vocational programming in the Lowell High School facility does not lose as many students as the city's losing to the VOC, where you also serve. There's a waiting list at the VOC. There's a reason for that.
Over 700 people. Yep.
You're trying to keep some of those here in Lowell.
Sure.
Where are we? How much?
Moving
What
towards
progress has
Chapter
been
70.
made?
We're moving towards Chapter 70. We're going to start a Chapter 70 program in marketing this upcoming school year.
Okay.
The following school year, we're going to be starting computer networking. ISSN is the Chapter 70 name. Chapter 74 name, ISSN, which is computer IT, computer networking. And then we're also going to start a criminal justice program. So that's in the marks for 2026, 2027 school year. At that point, then we're looking to add at least 2 more. Then we become a full Chapter 74 program. We can have a tech director, and we can begin to go ahead and.
So you've already created an admin position. Look at that.
I know. I figured you'd say that, but yes, we're going to go ahead and have a tech director. Then we'll be able to work on co-op, and then we'll be able to start growing within our education process.
So it is moving forward. I remember the criminal justice
We filled out the application. The
and
state has
whatnot.
accepted us. Everything has gone up. What I ran on vocational programming at Lowell Public, as much as right now we can't offer, carpentry and automotive and electrical, we will be offering vocational programming to make sure kids come back to school and they're job ready if they need to be job ready upon graduation.
And that's good to hear, because you're not going to get carpentry and auto shop, and you're not getting that in the Lowell High School.
Not yet.
Yeah,
I still have high hopes. Okay. I always have high hopes.
They built a building. They settled on a design 5 years ago that didn't include a lot of that. That's a big commitment.
I agree.
As again, the way I look at it, you don't necessarily have to let the ones who want those vocations go into the Voc or the other vocational schools, but you've got the potential, the industries of the future, robotics, biotech, biomed, with what UMass Lowell is doing with Link and all those companies that are coming in, and the potential career paths there. I think you're on the right path with where you're going.
We're going in the right direction, no doubt. You just sort of, you just want to, because don't forget, I'm always after that bottom tier of kids that don't graduate. Mom and dad don't speak English as a first language. There may not be mom, there may not be a mom and dad, there may be a grandparent. So I'm really trying to go ahead and get that kid to graduate, because again, if a kid doesn't graduate, where's he end up? 5 years after he left school. So it's vital that we graduate the kids. And robotics is a great idea, and I'd love to do it. And I know some of our administration is sort of pushing towards that. And, we could go in that direction very well. It's sort of that Latin Lyceum of the vocational trades. But, that's to be continued. And we're excited about every vocational opportunity that we can create at Lowell Public.
All right. Glad to hear that that's going forward. You alluded to it, so I wanted to follow up because I know that was a big part of your campaign. The rest of the budget, it remains to be seen. 2 more chapters will unfold this week, Tuesday and Wednesday night.
Wednesday, yeah.
And we'll probably
fun times.
I'll make my prediction at some point in June. Everybody will be in love again, and there won't be any cuts. Maybe a little, a little nip tuck here and there up in the central office, if I had to guess.
But don't forget, the city's a great partner, and we appreciate them for everything that they do. And we're just asking that they sort of appreciate us for everything that we do.
And the taxpayers are great partners too, because
the taxpayers are outstanding people. We couldn't do any of this, and we're going to move our Lowell schools forward. That's been my goal since I campaigned, and it's going to be my goal until the day that I leave my position.
All right. I promised I'd get you out of here by 9:45. It's 9:48. So I'm 3 minutes late. Fred Bahou, thank you so much for joining us here on the Daily Pulse. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
It was great being here. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you to School Committee Member Bahou. Thank you for tuning in as well on the Daily Pulse. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to have a Trigger 'em Tuesday, because we're going to talk a little bit about body slamming and ICE. So we have to talk a little bit about that and things such as don't believe what your lying eyes tell you. On Wednesday, former Mayor Bill Samaras will be here with State Rep Tara Hong. Yes, in God's backyard. Why is one of Lowell state reps pushing this, signing on to it as a co-sponsor? We'll talk to Representative Hong and get his thoughts behind that. We got a whole bunch of other stuff coming up this week. It's every day at noon. It drops here on Inside Lowell, the Daily Pulse. Inside Lowell, as we like to say, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, everybody stay safe, and I'll catch you on the other side.